We're back. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Almost Patriots Podcast. Episode 24 this week. Got my boy brought to you by Hannah. I got my boy Chris here at the pad at the loft in San Diego, not via satellite, and my boy Mike in New York. Chris and I just got finished with a warm-up DJ set that we streamed live on Twitch before we did this. So lots of fun there.
Steak in between. We had steak in between.
Oh, shout out Puerto La Boca here in San Diego. It's a fine Argentinian restaurant that is serving up a lot of delicious food for everyone. So we just smashed some Puerto La Boca. That was fantastic. We had
that skirt steak with some chimichurri.
You got to get the chimichurri. You got to get the sausage at Puerto La Boca, and you got to get the skirt steak. Skirt steak is the way to go.
You guys are making me fucking hungry right now.
Mike, how's everything going in New York, Mike?
It's going good. Today, what's today? The first day of spring, right?
I think so.
Yeah, yesterday was like 60. Yesterday was like 62, 63 degrees here. It was warm as hell. It was gorgeous. Today, it dropped back down to 42 degrees, and it's raining and pretty fucking disgusting out.
That sucks.
Yeah.
It's
the Northeast weather for you.
Yeah, that Midwest, North, it's all just kind of fluctuates in this time of year where it's like 60, 65, sunny, 70, and then it'd be like raining at 32. It's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, like what the fuck is going on?
I was making a steak the other day after it was like a beautiful day. I went on a run. The next day it sleeted while I was making a steak.
What the fuck?
Were you
making the steak with propane?
I did
Yeah,
use propane.
I forgot to make the steak with the propane.
No, the funny thing is, the 2 seconds ago when you were like, yeah, we had some steaks, I was like, wait, did you please tell me Chris grilled this time? And then you said you went to that restaurant. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, shout out Puerto La Boca. How are you guys' week's been? Mine has been pretty crazy. I went to see these fools in New York. Then saw my pops in shout out Abba Yuba in McLean. And then I made it back to San Diego last Wednesday in time for the Mitch Dodge show, which was awesome. So I've been running around, still catching up on sleep. This, I think, is the first day that I got a chance to clean my house while Chris was mixing. I was running around in the background cleaning my house.
I'm just entertainment while you clean. Yeah.
And so I've been streaming all week, guys. It's been like, I think when we finished today, Chris, I think it was 11 hours this week of streaming music. So shout out to everyone who supported that. Shout out to everybody who catches our show every Tuesday here on Twitch and every Wednesday at 4. And then this show on Thursdays at 4. But yeah, man, it's going to be
7 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, just do the math.
I totally fucked that up today. In my mind, I thought I had all this time to do God knows what. I was like, oh, it's 4 o'clock? God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was like, hey, we're going to go and work out after we mix and then sit down and have steaks before the show. And I was like,
well, I wasn't planning on mixing. I was planning on going to the gym. You didn't tell me about the mixing part, so.
I didn't force
but it was a
you.
Nice,
I didn't force. I didn't twist your arm to mix.
It was a nice surprise. I saw Chris mix. I saw Chris mix, and some asshole in the chat was really distracting.
You, because you're miserable at your job and you wish you're out here mixing with us.
I was in a conference. God's honest truth. I had a conference call with like 10 people. Actually, it was like 25 people, and I was just so bored. Like, I did my talk, and I was like, done with. Let me watch them mix. Yeah. And then Ricardo's dancing the entire time, and Chris is actually trying to mix and do some stuff. So it was entertaining. And to be honest with you, Chris, your set really wasn't that bad. I was expecting a lot worse because you just started.
Well, those songs I just downloaded. I've listened to them all once, and I don't know. It was So I think a lot of that has to do with song selection. I mean, mixing. I mean, with the technology nowadays, it's honestly not that difficult as long as you don't mix at the wrong times. I mean, if you can do simple math, 16, 32, 48, like those are the times to mix in and out, right? And then everything's 4x4. So, I mean, but I've been listening to music forever. So like in the back of my mind, there's always like some metronome going off where I know like I'm either right or wrong. And then I mean, realistically, if your music sucks, it doesn't matter how good you are at mixing. I mean,
bingo. What kind of music do you like to play, Chris? Like, what do you think your favorite genres are?
I could play techno all day, every day. Love techno. I really do enjoy tech house and bass house, but I don't like to mix tech house and bass house like extemporaneously. I
Like
to
keep them separated.
Because usually, like, the lyrics don't necessarily match up well if you haven't listened to the song, or if you don't know like when it's coming, and so the lyrics step on each other a lot, and that doesn't sound great. And tech house and bass house, the rhythms are slightly different, so it's much more difficult to like kind of mix them without like listening in headsets. Like I like to just mix and like eyeball it. But like, in order to mix tech house and bass house back and forth, you have to have the headset, because like they don't necessarily line up. The computer can't do it for you. But I do enjoy. I mean, like I said, techno all day, every day. I love trance, dude. I love trance, but I hate mixing trance.
Yeah, same.
I hate mixing trance. Songs are fucking 12,000 years long, and the lyrics end with like 2.5 seconds left, and it's like you can't mix them together. You play one trance song and that's it. That's your wad spent. You know, like you came too early in the orgy and you got to go home. You know, that's how trance is for me. So,
Mike, what kind of music do you like to listen to? EDM style. I know you were asking about some of the genres today. I played a little bit of minimal. I played a little bit of just regular house, and then I played some Afro house for you. Which one of those resonated the most?
I like house. I'm a big vocal house guy, trance. I'm a big club guy, or I've always been a big club guy. Like back in the day, I used to go all the time, and that's the type of music that they play in New York. You know, obviously you have your deep house, but I'm really big into now like euphoric, like techno, where it's like, you know, you bring the music down and then all of a sudden you have a heavy bass, like uplifting sort of trend to it. And it's almost always like vocal involved. So you have like a hot smoke show blonde from Sweden singing the vocals. So yeah, I'm a big person, but outside of that, I'm big into country. I like that type of music. I'm hip hop, you know, rap, old school rap. None of this new shit from some of these artists.
Country?
Yeah, I've gone to a lot of country. I've gone to a lot of country concerts.
You do look like you've seen one up close.
Yeah, you definitely look like you've seen one up close.
No comment, jackass. But nah, so the problem is it's either one or the other. So I've always gone to clubs and like techno like events or trance events, and then I've also gone to a ton of country concerts. Every time I'll tell you, I love country better because it's just the vibe is a little bit more relaxing and like a little bit more of like, okay, drink beers, have fun, play games. Like, you know, it's a lot like, it's a lot more enjoyable. Techno, they play it so fucking loud half the time you can't even hear yourself.
You want to know my favorite way to melt cowboy brain?
No, I don't want to hear it. So anyway, next topic.
So when you see those guys wearing like spray-on denim jeans and like cowboy boots who've never even seen a fucking horse in real life, and you're like, hey, you do realize that the mechanism in your boots is the same mechanism for girls wearing high heels? It lifts your butt up and lifts your calves up, make your butt look better, and they're just fucking
The fact that you know that concerns me a lot. Anyway, next topic.
So you went to the rodeo, and the first thing that stuck out was dudes.
Was the guy's ass? Yeah, guy's asses.
It's my favorite. I used to have some friends when I was younger in the Marine Corps that would alys, you know, they've never even seen a horse
now it's
in
the
real
friends.
life, and they wear these like spray-on denim jeans, and they wear these cowboy boots that they bought like in fucking, you know, Washington State or something, right?
Yeah. Okay. Good cover up.
You're like, hey,
let's go to the next.
What are you doing there? You trying to sell your ass out there?
I never thought of that.
It was my friends.
That actually makes it so. Yeah, be careful. I never even thought about that.
No, I love making fun of cowboys about it, especially the ones that you know have never fucking been on a ranch. You know, like I own horses. I've actually ridden horses. These guys are fucking retarded. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm Spanish. I've stolen horses.
Why you gotta go that way?
Why do you always, everything I say has to be.
Why you guys
Well,
say,
Mike's Jewish, right? So he's probably chops them up and turn them into glue, right?
Exactly.
Wow, rude.
No. Mike's Jewish, so what he's done is he's told the horses that he's going to give them some food now, but they're going to have to pay interest on the food down the road later.
You guys are so fucked up. It's unbelievable.
Shout out. But anyways, yeah, lots of good music, and I'm happy that both my friends love the music. I'm happy that Mike's involved. Big weekend here in San Diego. If you guys are in Southern California, like Elvis and I are, tonight at Camino, we have Facundo Mar from All Day I Dream. A really, really big act coming out to San Diego. If you get a chance to go see him, and then the Sunday, the Godfather, the label owner, Lee Burridge from All Day I Dream is going to be here in San Diego at Wicked West, courtesy of Music is for Lovers. I would check that show out. I'm going to be there with Mitch Dodge and a bunch of other nutty homies, having a fantastic time. So if you're in town, I would check those two out. And then Sunday at Firehouse, we got Technasia. So check all those out. Follow Music is for Lovers.
Wait, you said Sunday twice.
Yeah,
Sunday, Technasia. Saturday is Lee Burridge. Saturday, Lee Burridge.
Saturday.
Sunday, Technasia. Yeah, my little PA. I got to give a little love to these guys. Music is for Lovers. They've been really good to me.
Cowboy Star?
I'm not going to say
fake boots.
Don't get mad at me, Susio and Jimbo, but I'm probably not going to go to the Sunday show. But I'll be at Saturday. I'll be there probably until Sunday.
Okay.
We'll be there in spirit.
Yeah. No. I might have to miss the Sunday show. It's been too much travel for me, so I might take it easy and just have some steak with the boys. But yeah, that's the end of my little PA announcement, guys. Episode 24. Let's get it moving, guys. So we've noticed that there's been a little bit of a snack slowdown. Is that what's going on here, Mike? From your topics?
Yeah, so General Mills is one of the largest snack companies out there, providing packaged snacks, basically. A lot of their products. Now, they recently had their earnings call, which was a interesting earnings call across the board, not just from regular processed snacks to also organic. Sales have been down 5%. Now, the question is it because of the times? Meaning, has inflation taken over of people buying less? Or is it because people becoming more health-oriented and understanding that processed food, processed snacks are not healthy for you? So what do you guys think? Do you think it's the sign of the times, people are just cutting back on costs? Or do you think people are being a little bit more health-oriented?
Well, I think that there's definitely sort of a red pill, blue pill. If you tell people that what they're eating is not good for them, there is going to be a portion of people that stop eating it just naturally. But we've been lied to for so long, just assuming that these things are healthy and finding out that they're not. So now it's really difficult to consciously put something in your mouth that isn't good for you.
What about you, Ricardo? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little too soon for me on this, just on consumer behavior, because sometimes consumer behavior doesn't make any fucking sense. So, I'm going to go ahead and just tee this one up for now to awareness. Right? I do believe that, what's his name? The homeboy that does all the fucking push-ups, RFK?
David.
Yeah. So I do... No. The guy who's the health of human services.
RFK Jr.
Yeah.
RFK Jr.
Yeah. So I do believe
you said push-ups, not RFK Jr.
Right. So I do believe out of all of the lunacy that this guy has spouted, the one good thing that he has done is he's become sort of a beacon for Americans to take a look at sort of what they're putting into their bodies more. I'm going to give it up to women. Because women having to give birth, I think, pay a lot more attention to what they put into their bodies than men. I remember my mom was always more worried about my sister than what I was eating because, of the whole reproduction thing. So I think girls have been kind of doing this for a while. But I also think there's been a lack of information out there. And that, now that we're done bickering with each other, that some people are actually going to go out and do some stuff. And I would love to see people eating healthier snacks, especially less processed foods. Because a lot of these are just, products that are designed to be consumed over and over again, and they don't really give you any nutritional value. And looks like what we're finding out is that some of them are extremely harmful. And, I got to tell you, I'm going to say this. My dad is 91 years old. He's pretty healthy. I mean, he's got, some memory issues, but like most people, this guy's been eating raw materials ever since I've known him. He's eaten nothing but bread, cheese, salad, fish, steak. He doesn't touch chicken. Hates the way it tastes. And fish and wine and coffee. The 45 years of knowing this motherfucker, that's all he's put in his body, and the guy is still killing it, still kicking. So, and he grew up with a diet from South America that he never got accustomed to the U.S. diet. I mean, because, I don't think he's ever tried a Dorito, right? But if he did, he'd be addicted. I'm telling you, because I tried Doritos and they're fucking delicious. But so there's a lot of this kind of like awareness that I think is moving. So I'm going to put it up to awareness, and I want to say I hope that people out there are paying a little bit more attention as to, and I'm going to say this in this way, not what they're putting in their body, who the fuck is selling it to you. Figure out who's behind whatever you're about to consume, and it's a pretty good way of deciding yes or no. You pick out an orange, you know who's behind that? Jesus. He's behind that. It's okay to eat an orange. You pick up a box of cereal, you know who's behind it? All the investors, the assholes who started the company, everyone on TV who's being paid to promote. And so, like, this is not necessarily something or a group of people that have your best interest. So instead of saying people, hey, pay attention to what you put in your body, I would like people to pay attention who the person is that's selling you the thing that you're about to put in your body.
Yeah. So I'll give you my take. I think it's a combination of things. I think over the last, how many years everybody has been talking about health-oriented food. So I think people are a little bit more accustomed. However, what, is really what a lot of people are starting to notice is who's consuming these products, right? And a lot of the time, processed foods are consumed by the lower class, believe it or not, because of the cost of those products. So it's easier to fill up on a bag of chips compared to buying steaks and eggs and a lot of these other more expensive items. The second thing, though, is I think it's also cost. I think the price of things are going up. The inflationary factors are contributing to this. And instead of buying 10 bags of Doritos, they're probably buying 5 bags of Doritos, and they're spending their money on other household items that are necessary. So I think it's a combination of both. But it's definitely, consumers are definitely more aware of the food that they're putting into their bodies, because it's not just General Mills. You have McDonald's trying to come out with healthier items. You have all these companies that are trying to promote healthier products. So you definitely have a combination of both.
Taco Bell has their Cantina menu or whatever now.
Bomb. Don't talk bad about Taco Bell.
Taco Bell's delicious, but I think Mike, you have a point there too. I saw something recently that were saying that like RFK is trying to get it so that you can't use welfare or EBT to pay for processed foods. And I know that a lot of these companies it's sort of like government subsidized. So like I didn't notice coming, living in DC or the suburbs, but like here in San Diego, there's a 7-Eleven on every corner. I live downtown, there's people everywhere. And I never realized, how many poor people or people that have assistance were using that to buy shitty food. And I was like, this is a fucking racket. These companies are literally lobbying the government to allow these people to continue to, it's just like a revenue stream. And so if we can make it so that you can only buy things that are good for you with our tax dollars, God forbid that happen. I mean, who would it help?
I still think people should have the opportunity to buy them. I'm not against anybody saying you can't buy them. But I think if you create more awareness, if you create healthier options that are cheaper, like you can buy a bag of Doritos for $3.99 or $6.99 depending on the size of the bag. But at the same time, you could also buy a bag of carrots for 99 cents or $1.99. You still have both of those options. The problem is just awareness and education. And the most important thing right now that's been happening, which I am happy with RFK, is he's bringing people awareness of what these companies are doing. Remember, you are a consumer. You are the one they rely on to buy the product. So it's manipulation, and that's how they make money.
Think of it this way, guys. So, like, my thing is with chefs, and shout out to all my friends that are chefs. Shout out Carla. Shout out everybody. It's nothing against you guys. So, this is an industry where you go to school to learn how to feed people. And the most expensive meal in that industry isn't the most nutritious. What the fuck are you learning at chef school? You're not learning how to feed people. What you're learning is how to manipulate people into falling in love with a taste that they need to come back for. And that's not healthy for anyone. What you should do is open a restaurant, and the most expensive thing is the best thing for you. Maybe that fucking thing cures cancer. But like the incentive structure is all screwed up, dude. All screwed up, right? You know, it's all about like status and all that stuff. And so I think things have gotten a little bit out of control with the capitalism on that side. Some things, especially things that belong to human beings and health and welfare, shouldn't be managed by the invisible hand of capitalism, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that the insidious part of it is the differences between like Mexico and like the US and the product. Like, so like Coke is the best example I can think of. And like Coke in Mexico is cane sugar, and Coke in the United States of America has, you know, high fructose corn syrup. And high fructose corn syrup is like almost as addictive as heroin. And so like, why is there this massive difference in the quality in the ingredients of the product in America versus other countries? And it goes back to the capitalism thing. But I think the problem is that it changed somewhere in our lifetime. And so the products that we consume when we were kids weren't necessarily bad for us. But the products we're consuming as adults now in our 30s and 40s, they've changed. Now they're full of all these ingredients that are just not good for the human body. And so, you know, RFK is an example of someone who's kind of bringing some of that stuff to light. Like, why is there such a massive difference between what I eat in the UK and what I eat in the US? And why is there such a difference between Canada and Mexico and the US? And it's greed in a lot of cases. But it's misinformation, I think, is one of the biggest problems.
A lot of it, too, can be complacency. And then one of these things that I think I read this book by the Koch brothers, who I think are probably evil motherfuckers, whatever, allegedly. But they had a really good point, and the whole book was about this thing called creative destruction. And I really liked that. And they talked about how they got so much money and got rich. And one of the things they said is like, they realized one of their products was running out of life cycle, and they would destroy that company and like create the next product. And it was called creative destruction. Mm-hmm. And what's happening is a lot of motherfuckers that aren't used to having money, as soon as they tap into a revenue stream, will suck that revenue stream dry. Right. And it doesn't innovate. They're not improving the product. They just try to take the product to other markets instead of listening to the feedback. And so this is what I mean, like where like the invisible hand of capitalism is somewhere missing. Right. The whole point is that like, and I've been an advocate of this, where it's like, look, after your product reaches, and you can time this, right, a maturity in the life cycle, we're going to tax you 80% on those profits, unless you use those profits for R&D in another product, and then you can save money on taxes. But if you want to sit there and milk the fucking cow, we're going to take most of that money from you, because the whole point of you having all the resources is to make shit better, not for you to get rich.
Right, leveraging the infrastructure that we've built in America to benefit Americans.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be rich, start a private company. Don't tell anybody what the fuck you're doing. Yeah, exactly. But if you've taken tax dollars or money from the public in a publicly traded market, you better use that money not just to make the investors better off, but to make your product better off.
Or you can become rich by the hand model. Why don't we ask Chris about that? Chris, how did you make your money from being a hand model? Well, no, Ricardo, not you. Get your hands out of there.
Got to jerk off somebody famous.
Okay, next topic. And what were you talking about? Undue stress from speculation.
So, guys, apparently Mike believes that Hollywood and has been hitting a little bit of a creativity problem. I love this topic. Specifically, I think Mike saw this advertisement for the new. What is this?
The John Wick spinoff.
Yep.
John Wick, but I don't see John Wick in this photo.
So it's based on the storyline and the universe that John Wick, the movies, were created in, and they're coming out with this movie, Ballerina. I love John Wick. I think all the movies are great. I think the kind of universe that they made as the premise for the movies was phenomenal. But it's like, you made 4 movies. You're coming out with a 5th now. It's like you're beating the
plus the TV show.
Yeah, plus the TV show. You're just beating it to the ground now. And this is the problem, I think, with Hollywood, right? Is you don't have creativity anymore. You just latch onto one idea, and you think you can continue making these movies until they basically become not profitable. And the consumer like myself who watches a lot of movies and TV show gets very frustrated because there's nothing new. Like Marvel movies have been going now for 20 plus years. It's still the big ticket item, but the problem is most people now are getting frustrated and the returns from the box offices are not there. I think a lot of people are just getting frustrated in general, myself included, from the movies and the content that's being thrown out there. Netflix has a good show once in a while. Hulu has a good show once in a while. Amazon Prime has a good show. But the next problem is it's the remakes of all the older movies. So it's like you get a generation that was younger that saw a bunch of TV shows and movies and they're like, I love this. And then all of a sudden Hollywood's like, okay, we have nothing good. Let's go back to the money maker and we'll bring that show or movie back 25 years later, 20 years later. How many times can you remake Batman? I love Batman, but how many times can you remake it? I thought it should have stopped with the Christopher Nolan trilogy, and all of a sudden they come out with a new one that's like the dark Batman version, and it was just like, come on, like we got to stop. And it came out like a couple years after Christopher Nolan's trilogy ended, so I think there's a problem with creativity, personally, in my opinion, and Hollywood. They need money, obviously. It's all about making money. But as a consumer like myself, I get frustrated because most of the content I see and the movies I see suck. Stop throwing money into bigger movie franchises like this, drive them into the ground, and start really trying to get creative with these plots and movies. You don't always need special effects or CGI. You can still make great storylines.
Yeah, I mean, this one specifically to me seems like it's tapping into the Spanish market because it says Ana de Amas or whatever. So it looks like they're going after just a different market share, which isn't unpredictable. But my comment on this, and I don't know if I made this comment before, is basically that. So historically, in literature and art, there have been periods of waxing and waning censorship. And a way to identify that you're in a period socially of censorship is they start regurgitating the art because they don't want to create waves with new ideas. And so what we've seen, at least, for the past 5 or 6 years, is that, everything is sort of a taboo. Like you can't say a word without somebody getting offended. And so what's happening is that the Hollywood and all the creators, because they want to make money and they can't make money if they offend people, they start taking all these 80s things that worked, and they're like, hey, remember the Happy Dog in the 80s that everyone loved? Okay, that's politically correct. Let's do Happy Dog 2. And someone's like, no, let's tell a story that's going to help people. And they're like, not right now, because there's too much censorship and it's not going to make any money and people will get offended. And so you can tell a society is being censored in general when you start to see the repetition of content, right? And this is kind of the safe route that Hollywood is taking. Because, like, say, when was the last time somebody made a movie like, what is this movie? Not Zoolander, but Tropic Thunder, right? That was a great fucking movie. I've seen it like 50 times. Hilarious. If somebody put that out now, they might go bankrupt. It may not even see the light of day, And so
I think it would do well, and people are afraid of that.
Yeah, well, they're afraid of the reputational risk to it. Also, the actors and actresses, but the movie studios, because everybody protests nowadays. Robert Downey Jr. was on Rogan, and he was talking about it. And he was talking about how that movie can never be made in today's environment because it would offend too many people. But if I remember correctly, he said, because Joe Rogan was talking about it, they loved it. Jamie Foxx commented on it and said it was great. People shouldn't be offended. It was a great movie. It's an artistic viewpoint and value that a lot of people liked.
The problem is it's not concerned for offending people. That's not why they're not doing it. They're worried because they're going to signal to the powers that be that they don't think in the same way that they do, and so they're not going to get rewarded. So what we see all the time now is all these people are making movies specifically because they know that the people that give out the awards think the way that they think, and they don't want to signal to those people that they think differently because they don't want to miss out on the opportunities of the future. And so they keep pushing the same content out because they know it's going to get liked. It's kind of what we talked about before, doubling down on your constituencies, beliefs or whatever. And it's just, we've talked about this before. We got to kind of just wipe all the baby boomers out and start fresh.
Whoa. Yeah. No, I saw. So the thing that really struck me is the other day I watched a new TV series on Hulu. It was called it was Paradise. The premise was great. The storyline phenomenal. I really enjoyed it, and it was creatively different. What people were looking for, what a lot of people are looking for, is something different that latches them on. And that's the reason why I like the show. The same reason why Stranger Things caught people off guard, and it was just so outside the box and was creative with the thought process on how the intersection of the kind of two different worlds. So there's creativity that people still have, but it's just allowing them to make that content based on what you were saying, Chris, the fear of not fitting in boxes. I would highly suggest watching Paradise on Hulu. They're coming out with a second season. The first season was phenomenal. It was entertaining, and they left it on a cliffhanger for season 2, which I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, I watched The Gorge on the way over here. Apple TV Plus. Pretty
How
good.
was that?
It was good.
Okay. Gotta check it out.
Definitely unique, different. I mean, sort of the overall kind of thing is we've seen seems similar storylines play out, but the uniqueness was actually like the character development and the character relationships was actually pretty entertaining. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. There's still content out there. It's just there needs to be more of that. Like they came out with Beverly Hills Cops like 5 or 4, like actual Foley, like they
It
came
wasn't
out
bad.
with.
I watched it.
Yeah,
It wasn't
bad, but it was like 20 years since the last one, or 25 years since the last one. It was like, what the fuck? Coming to America 2, they came out with. They made another remake. I forgot the name of the movie, which bombed. It's just like, stop. And then now I think they're, what was the series that they're thinking of coming out with? It's like they're at a cliffhanger right now with James Bond. Now, I understand why they do Bond because it's based on a spy, and like in the entertainment value of that show just continues to adapt over time with the action and plot lines, which is great. So I have no problem with that. The same thing with Mission Impossible. But the problem is you're getting to a point now with those movies, your main stars, like Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise. I think he's 60 now. Well, how many times are you going to hang off a fucking side of a plane? You can't do that into your 70s. At some point, there's going to either be a replacement and they're going to continue the series, which I'm going to have an issue because you're so used to Tom Cruise being in that as Ethan Hawke.
yeah, it's gonna be hard to replace him.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree too.
it's just a creativity element for me that's really destroying.
I gotta take Ricardo's side on this a little bit, so bear with me because I'm not a creative type. But I watched something the other day, and I feel bad that I can't remember his name, but he was essentially saying that how you can tell the least creative people is that when you say, hey, I need you to do something creative, like build a wall or make a movie or whatever the hell it is, the least creative people start immediately doing something, and the most creative people procrastinate, quote unquote,
and think about it
because they're waiting for inspiration. Mm-hmm. So I think what we're seeing a lot is just people just throwing content against the wall like spaghetti.
Yeah.
And those are the least creative people.
And that was actually a study that was done about architects during architect final exams, and they could tell which architects were more talented, and they retroactively traced their careers, and they were the ones who waited the longest to begin the test, and then it was because they were the ones that had the most talent because they didn't need all day long, and they were waiting for inspiration, and the inspiration is sort of a signal to unload the talent.
Yeah, and that's like actors and actresses. You realize the best actors and actresses over the period of time are individuals that don't take the job for money. They take roles that they actually believe in and like. And when you become so great at your craft and in their respective field, that's when you make the money. You make tons of money. Like I was listening to Samuel L. Jackson in an interview one time, and he was talking about take a job that you will be proud of. And I think he said it was advice from Bruce Willis. If I remember correctly, he was like, take a job that you can be proud of 25 years down the line.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of a balance, though. I feel like sometimes those people take themselves a little bit too seriously. Like if you only do like the artsy, roles where it might be nominated for Oscar or whatever. And it's, I mean,
Well,
don't
I'm
get me
not
wrong.
saying
I mean,
I
those
don't
are
mean
great.
the
They're great
artsy. I mean,
actors, but like that, sometimes I feel like those people take themselves a little bit too seriously, and it's hard to get behind them. You know, like support them.
so the one actor that I think about that is phenomenal, and everybody knows he's phenomenal as an actor, but he's very picky with his roles, is Daniel
Daniel
Day-Lewis.
Day-Lewis.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
phenomenal. But if you look at his
My
page of,
favorite
like,
actor.
movies, yeah. But do you see every performance that he has?
Epic.
It's epic. It's amazing, and he's so into it. And there's not one little thing like that he does that you're like, oh, I don't believe this. Like, you believe him, and I think that's the beauty of it, because he picks roles that he knows he can play, and he can be the most creative in those roles to make you believe it, but believe the scene.
Absolutely, by far one of my favorite actors. Great method actor. Great, you're saying selecting his roles. I think, and although this is probably something that a lot of people don't notice, but I've always noticed that Brad Pitt is really good at selecting his roles. He's not the best actor, but he always finds roles that are really good for whatever he's trying to do.
Fits him, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked him in that movie where he played Death, with Anthony Hopkins. Was it
Talented
Meet Black? Meet Black.
Oh, Meet Joe Black.
I
That's
love
right. That's
that
right.
movie.
Great fucking
I
movie.
love that movie.
Oh,
Yeah, I have in my notes. I have that library, their library in the house as like what I want. I want a library that looks like that.
It's just the way that he approached life in that role. He was so apathetic, right? He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna die." He's like, we might as well learn something,
What was
right?
so amazing was the contrast. The character that he plays in the first 10 minutes of the movie versus when he's death. I mean, that feels like two different people.
completely different, yeah.
Right. I feel like that's kind of what the director was trying to do, is be like, hey, look at this. I think the whole message was like, seize the moment, because life is short and life is beautiful, and there are things that can happen to you during life that would make it so that you're not going to enjoy life anymore.
Yeah,
right. And so it's like you choose whether you want to live as the pre guy or the post guy, right? It's you can be apathetic and sociopathic and completely unsatisfied and constantly chasing things, or you can live in the moment and engage people around you, because I think people are the most unique things in our environment.
Yeah, and Ricardo, I think you just hit a valuable point there. All artistic like frameworks, if it's artwork, movies, music, they all have meaning, and they all have certain kind of themes, messages. I don't
Metaphor.
feel like metaphoric. Metaphor. I feel like most movies nowadays are missing a lot of those metaphors. I feel like you're not seeing it a lot today,
Because
and
metaphors are dangerous.
yeah, but life metaphors, like things of that nature, like showing how important and how unique life is and how short it is, right? That is a beautiful metaphor. And then he switches to death and shows like, wow, this is dark. Like you're not around. You have no feeling. You have no emotion. At least you don't have that, because you have Marvel movies where it's about blowing up another planet, and it's about like literally turning around.
No.
And it's the same common themes over and over.
You don't have that, because the two biggest wars happening right now on the planet are still over fucking religion. That's why you don't have it, because nobody wants to question what happens when you die and what you should do while you're alive. There's people killing each other over that in the desert right now, and that's why you're not seeing that. Okay, it's because
my point
people
is,
still can't fucking get along and differentiate whether I want to be spiritual or you believe in Jesus or you believe in Allah. I don't give a fuck what you fucking believe in. None of you know. Okay, and you won't know until you die. Yeah.
Yeah, but my point was the metaphoric nature of it, right? Movies don't have a lot of metaphor, like meaning behind it anymore. I feel like a lot of the movies don't have that feeling to it. Like I watched the other day, you're gonna laugh, Love and Basketball. I love the movie. I think it's phenomenal. I think Love and Basketball, Omar Epps, is great. There's so much meaning behind it in each step of the movie. They do 4 quarters basically, and they break things down and they talk about it from a love nature of a relationship that starts as friends, goes through a relationship, goes through controversy, and they fight for each other in the end, and they end up together. There was so much meaning behind it.
Mike, and before Chris goes, you made me think of a very important point. And so in order to be able to write good stories that resonate, you have to have life experiences. And when you're locked up at your house during COVID and you're addicted to your phone and your television and you're not even interacting with your family, then guess what? The stories you tell don't resonate because they're not based on real life.
Chris, go.
Well, you have to have some dissenting opinion as well in your life. If you live in an echo chamber, then you can't really live any sort of like meaningful experience outside of whatever little world you live in. But we talked about this a little earlier, Ricard and I, while we were walking in. So like one of the fundamental differences between like Ricardo and I is that if given the opportunity, I would never see any meaning in anything because I see the world pretty black and white most of the time. The opposite for Ricardo. If given the opportunity, Ricardo would see metaphor in everything. And both of those extremes are bad, right? So there has to be some balance, right? Because like I told Ricardo, I was like, I think you give people too much credit. Like there's no metaphor in the Marvel movies, just fucking blowing shit up and flying it through space, right? You can find metaphors if you want, but I don't think there's actually intentional metaphors in some of those things. And so I think what I've been seeing kind of, and we've beaten the horse a little bit out here, but I feel like what I'm seeing is that people like myself who are not as creative, but maybe a little more charismatic, maybe a little more motivated and like confident, are the ones that are creating things. And there's no metaphor in the stuff that, most of the stuff that I would do there's no metaphor. I'm just putting stuff out there in the world. And then the people like Ricardo are seeing meaning in it. But the people like Ricardo are not obviously him, but like they're being kind of repressed, I think, based on their own little worlds. Like I said, they're living in their own little worlds. They're not experiencing the outside world. And so they don't have the ability to create metaphors, the ability to create content with metaphors. And I think also, depending on which side of the aisle you sit, right, you might feel afraid to put your metaphor out there in the world, like Ricardo was saying, because of fear that you're going to get, rejected or harassed or oppressed or whatever it is. So right now there's just, there's no psychological safety in the world to make people feel creative and innovative unless you, like Elon is like building an environment where if you do not innovate, you're out, which is not necessarily psychological safety, but it's still making progress. He's like forcing creative a little bit. And maybe that's the best route for a period of time, is to kind of force it because people aren't doing it willingly. But eventually you're going to have to go back to a place where we live in a world where there's some psychological safety and we feel free enough to create and make metaphors that might challenge some paradigms, that might make people feel uncomfortable, but they need to be said. Comedy is actually kind of one of those mediums right now that I think is pushing the boundaries more than anything else. So
they're leading the way.
Yeah, agreed. And I think what is it, like the court jester thing? And Rogan said is like, like I'm so glad we have comedians because somebody needs to be able to tell the truth, right? I mean, honestly, dude, like those
joke
guys
around certain topics.
Well, that's the whole point, right? He's like, hey, people attack comedians and are like, hey, it's a joke, right? And that's like something they can fall behind, like court jester, right? The court jester wasn't there to entertain the king. The court jester was there to make sure that the king didn't fucking, get a huge ego. And he'd be like, hey man, you're really awesome. When was the last time you went to war? Oh, you haven't? Oh, ha ha ha. And then he's like, oh shit, I better shut up. Or, what I'm saying? So it's like,
brush your teeth.
Exactly. But yeah, guys, a good topic. I know that a lot of people have been feeling a little bit of stress and anxiety lately. And we've been covering this a little bit. I know I have a little bit to talk about later on modern anxiety and how to combat some of that. It's going to be interesting. But Chris, man, you want to talk a little bit about this undue stress from speculation?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this more in a leadership perspective, but it can be applied to basically all aspects of life. And so what I see a lot is, an example would be like somebody gets fired and then somebody's like, oh man, the company hates children or whatever, some stupid like speculation, right? They're making some assumption about why he got fired, and nobody actually knows why. Somebody might have had some inkling about some piece of information, and everybody gets stressed out, like, oh man, am I next, right? Am I going to get fired next? Or, is this going to happen to me? And like, oh man, the company doesn't, love us, or they don't appreciate us, or whatever it is, right? And it spirals out of control, right? It's the whatever the word I'm looking for is, the rumor mill. The rumor mill just spirals out of control, right? Well, from a leadership perspective, first of all, you want to be involved in those conversations, which is obviously a first step, right? To make people feel comfortable enough to share those thoughts with you as the leader. If you can find yourself in the position to be able to be in those conversations where people are like, hey man, I think the company doesn't like children, or whatever stupid thing, right? I'm like, well, okay, let me either you have the information to like dispel the rumor mill, or be like, hey, look, that doesn't sound maybe right, or whatever, and then go find out what actually happened and confirm or deny the rumors, and then come back to your people and say, hey, look, this is what happened. Like, you were right. The company hates children, or hey,
stop with that.
Hey, like it was just a weird coincidence that like his kid got sick at the same time. It had nothing to do with why he was fired, or whatever it is, right? But I feel like there's a lot of wasted energy out there from kind of the masses, quote unquote, in all this speculation, and it just causes so much undue stress. And we're all guilty. I was used to be guilty of it. I did it all the time. I would just totally jump on the train. There's one on base that happened recently where something happened and people were like, oh man, 20 years of service doesn't mean anything. And it's like, well, there's like a whole bunch of other variables that you haven't even asked to find out. You're just assuming by this, you're just taking on this stress that you don't have to. And as a leader, when you have these conversations with people, I think it's on you to dispel those rumors and to sort of, push back and create a culture where people don't have that death spiral, where you can be like, hey, no, like have some sort of rational voice in the room that says, well, let me look into it, or like, hey, I know that person pretty well, and that doesn't align with what I know about them, but I'll talk to them and I'll come back to you, right? And then follow up, right? Actually follow through and come back, a couple of days later and be like, look, this is what happened. Hey, you guys were 100% correct or 100% wrong, or whatever it is. But don't just, what I see a lot of times is like, because you want to fit in with your people, you just jump on the rumor mill and just throw your own 2 cents in there, and then we all get together and talk about witches and whatever it is. And it's just,
so speculation is mostly just like on like rumor and chatter, and that's kind of like your focus there. Okay.
Yeah, it just causes tons of undue stress. Just speculating about things you know nothing about. You like heard some little variable in a rumor mill or whatever, and then you incorporate that in your own experience, and then regurgitate that to your fellow people who all agree with you or disagree or whatever. And then the next thing you know, like I said, the company or the CEO like doesn't like children is the outcome, and you're like, well, what? I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right?
I think it's so any job, any position you're in, you're always going to speculate. Like in my position, always going to speculate, oh, who's going to be the boss next, or who's going to do this, or who's going to do that. I don't want this person being the boss, because if that's the case, our lives are going to suck.
Because they hate children, right? Yeah.
No, not because they hate children. I also so talking about your boss, right? Leadership. There's a power complex in people's minds a lot of the time. They're the boss. I gotta follow the rules. Sometimes people get nervous and they don't want to talk to their boss or ask these questions because they don't know how the boss is going to react, or their manager, or so forth. You have to, in talking from a managerial position, in my experiences, you have to create an environment where you have open airways, where you can communicate and talk about these things. Hey, you have concerns, we have a team meeting, feel free to speak out. If you don't want to speak out during a team meeting, ask certain things, or you don't feel comfortable talking around other people, my door's always open. Come in and talk with me. That's a problem a lot of the time too, because we're always taught in a system, right? There's authority. You don't talk back to your teachers in school, you go to detention. You don't break the law you don't speed because you go to jail. So there's always going to be like this power complex of authority that translates into the workplace a lot of the time as well. And a lot of people are fearful. So as a leader, you have to kind of break those barriers down in a certain capacity where you can make people feel comfortable, where if they are speculating things, you can calm that stress, you could calm those nerves. But at the same time, you want to speak to people and you have to have open communication. So it's always a challenge. The one thing I have with my manager right now, who's my regional managing partner at my firm, is we have open communication. I always, if I have a problem, I always walk in like, hey, we got this going on in this part of the country, or we got something going on here. Should we be concerned right now? Like, because this is going to impact our office at a certain point. And the beauty of it is, and I have to give my manager, my boss, kudos, is she's like, no, that shouldn't impact us. Don't worry about it. If I hear something, I'll talk with you about it. And right away, I was like, okay, that's good. All right, we're still going to get our bonuses. Okay, I'm still going to get my raise. Like, those things. Like, so it's all about dynamics, I feel. And I think speculation is the devil in the workplace. Not just in the workplace, I think also in your personal life as well. But in the workplace, it creates so much stress. And Chris, you're right. The stress levels get to you pretty bad, and it impacts your energy and your ability to work and be effective.
I'm gonna be quick on this one. Great,
Please do.
Great guys. I appreciate that. So it's who's this homeboy? Not Steve Jobs. Who's the other guy? The Amazon
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. So that's something really smart, right? And so I think this is very pertinent for this topic. So he said that anxiety comes from failure or waiting to take action, right? And so when you speculate something, you immediately can't take action on it, right? And so you're literally creating a stressful environment for yourself. One of the things Chris and I were talking about on our walk here in beautiful Little Italy, San Diego, before the show, shout out to Boca, Porto La Boca, for great steaks, was that it's really kind of ignorant and egotistical for people to predict outcomes, effectively. And I'm not saying for business or like that kind of shit or games or whatever, but like the only real way to gain wisdom from experience is to try things and see how they are, and then that's what knowledge is. You can't have knowledge without the word know, right? And so this is where I think a lot of people are leaning, is that there's been so much speculation with technology and all these tools that allow us to model, right? And in computational tools, right? But like, I guarantee that computer doesn't know what it's like to have the sun beating down on their face on a beautiful morning, feel alive, smell, the roses or whatever the fuck you're near, and then get moving. I mean, that's a very unique human experience. And so I do think that to eliminate stress from speculation, try with a little courage and go out and try to do a couple things that are outside of your comfort zone. It has helped me tremendously. And I don't say like, don't break it. Don't just change your life around. But I do think that like, if you're feeling a little bit of speculative stress, pick an outcome. Don't attach yourself, or pick a path and don't attach yourself to the outcome, and try it. And then if it doesn't work out, you have hard data. And you don't need anyone else to tell you. It gives you a big sense of agency, right? So if you go and you do something dumb and you screw up, nobody's got to tell you you're dumb. You already know that's the dumb thing to do. And even if people tell you you're dumb, you won't be as effective. So just encouraging everyone to kind of follow their curiosity, a little bit of what we talked about last time. And if you want to take accountability for your curiosity, set a time goal to do something, but stick to it. And if you feel stressed from something that you don't know about, try it. Try it, one or the other, but don't try it worrying about the outcome. Trying it, worry about the data. Hey, I'm doing this to see what it feels like to fall on my face. It hurt. I don't want to do that again. Okay, next thing. And then there's no more stress. Yes, it hurts to fall on your face, but not as much as it hurts your life and the universe, where you sit there ruminating and not taking action. Not taking action is the worst thing you can do.
So, to I guess wrap this up a little bit, but the thing that I would recommend doing to sort of open up these communication lanes now when we're in this virtual world, right? So set up like a monthly meeting with your team where you do nothing but just chat. there's no objective, there's no purpose, there's no meeting notes or anything like that. The objective is just to get together on the teams, have a cup of coffee,
love
talk
that.
about whatever it is you want, and you leave it up to them. The discussion will, if you're making a comfortable enough environment, the discussion will just follow some natural course every time, just like podcasts, right? But most of the time, if you don't create that, if you don't force it a little bit, then they won't do it on their own. So, and then, participate. And then, hopefully that will kind of create a psychological safe environment that will allow that what we were just talking about.
And then you create the Commercial Space Act of 1998.
I'm ready to move on to this next. I think that was all really good. So Chris was wanting to talk a little bit about, so these astronauts, they were in space. They did not have any DJ controllers.
Supposed to be there for 7 days.
Yeah, it's really tough. Months. Yep. And so and I'm completely oblivious to this because my head's been in between two turntables for the past week. So
is that a metaphor?
Could be.
That was a good one.
Could be.
Good
I can't.
One.
I mean, I'm just a natural born artist. What's up?
Shout out Hannah.
Shout out Hannah in New York. If you're watching this, stop giving your number out. Not calling motherfuckers.
People or texting them back when they text you.
Yeah. Shout out to. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, so tell me a little bit about. So the guys are back. So
I think I know
Musk,
you're going with that fucking joke.
Yep. Elon got his shit together and pulled a spaceship out of his private garage to go and save these astronauts that couldn't get home, or the country that whatever was, NASA, whoever the fuck was putting the shit together, didn't mess it. And so they're back. And tell us a little bit about like how Elon had to intervene, what exactly happened, and you're saying that there's a really big tie to this Commercial Space Act of 1998, which I have a graphic for you. So when you're ready for it, let me know.
Yeah, throw it up. So this is big. All right, so the space shuttles, right? The Challenger and Atlantis and all those there was four of them, right? They were the only authorized platforms in the United States for re-entry. So the only way you could get anybody back or get anything back from outer space was to use a space shuttle. And it was basically federally mandated that there was no private company, only NASA had authorization to create re-entry vehicles. There's actually an Australian company sometime before the 98 Space Act that tried to get authorization to create a vehicle, and they got denied, so they built it in Australia. That company didn't do very well, but that's not the point. So in 1998, when the Commercial Space Act, that basically allowed a private company to create a vehicle that could re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, just like the space shuttle. Now, the 2003 Challenger mishap sort of really highlighted the risk and the cost involved. And so in 2011, they scrapped the space shuttle program. So essentially between 2011 and SpaceX, we had to use the Russian Soyuz shuttle to bring astronauts back and forth between the ISS, right? And so there literally has not been a platform in the US since 2011 to bring astronauts back. And so that's why this whole SpaceX thing is such a big deal, because the Russian Soyuz rocket went down, right? That's the problem, right? And so we couldn't get our astronauts back because Russia couldn't get them back, because we couldn't do it ourselves. And without the 1998 Space Act, SpaceX would not be where they are today to be able to actually have done this. So if that Space Act hadn't gone through, who knows? I mean, because SpaceX wouldn't have been able to be created. I mean, I'm fascinated by the kind of how the whole process goes. But yeah, so now they're back. They were there for 9 fucking months, dude. 9 months in space when you're supposed to be there for 7 days is insane. I don't even know how they did it.
Have you seen the photo, like the before and after of the one, and I know there was that guy who's now a senator, which I think is all fucking shady. So I don't know if you know this, but like there's these twins, and then they put one in space for a year and one here so they could compare, right? And the guy that went into space is now like a senator, and like all this stuff. And so like I thought that was really shady. But one of the things they what was it? His eyeballs got bigger, like all these really weird things that happen that when you're not near gravity or whatever, like, which I thought was really interesting in general. But I am glad that these guys are back. I do think this Commercial Space Act of '98 is a really interesting thing because, I believe that there is a cyclical event that kind of happens on this planet. I don't know when the fuck it is, but it's just like you look at shit, right? Like, and so it's interesting, and I do believe that there have been human beings before the last flood 12,000 years ago or whatever. I don't believe civilization started 6,000 years ago because it's not that cool. And so I do
Younger Dryas.
Yeah, Younger Dryas. And so, I think it's interesting that all the guys with all the money, the private guys, not the governments, are all building rockets to get off the planet. It's like when they all build bunkers. I'm like, why are they all building rockets to get? So that's my take is that, I do believe, like governments and elites have a lot more information. I don't think there's like some big conspiracy theory going on, but I do think that getting people off the planet safely is going to be part of what humanity needs to continue on a longer timeline. So I think this was kind of preemptive in saying, okay, we tried it. We've been to space. Remember, and I think in the 80s was the real battle for space, was the satellite battle. And like, America won when we invented GPS.
69 we went to the moon, so the 60s.
No, I meant like in the 80s, there was all these companies shooting up communication satellites.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like all the private companies and then cable TV, remember that? And so like all that shit. And so I think that's where the real battle was, and that was already fought and won. And the United States won. We invented GPS. We positioned the satellites. We created it. And so, hey, guess what? Now we're dominant in that respective. So I don't know what's going to happen, as far as like, getting us off the planet, but I do believe that battle, sort of that battle kind of finished. And then this Space Act was in out to let, to let capitalism, let the creative capital flow to people who are going to do things like Elon and innovate and see who can get the best rocket and who can get us off the planet the best.
Yeah, so two things. One, after I saw this whole situation with SpaceX pretty much basically saving them after they were being stuck in space, I decided to watch Geostorm with Gerard Butler. And he took a rocket up there. It looked
Dude, it's
exciting.
a great movie. It's such a good
great
movie. I
movie.
haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, I saw it.
But no, it makes you think, right? So, Ricardo, you bring up a valid point. So the privatization of rockets and flying to space. Elon's been talking about colonization of Mars and things of that magnitude. Do I think, these billionaires and elites are privy to some information? Yes, I do. Do I think there was a underlining reason why space exploration was privatized with SpaceX and Blue Origin and a couple of other these companies? I don't think like the world's ending tomorrow. I don't think that's the case. I think because of NASA and the governmental bureaucracy, it was slowed down. So with privatization, innovation comes along with that. The brightest minds, the ability to do certain things that the government could not do. Also, the cost associated with it as well. It's has, created, advanced technology. It has created advanced exploration. They're talking about going further and further into space now with the technology, with the advancements. They've saved rockets because now they can catch them instead of basically rockets exploding, when they were coming back into the atmosphere. So this act, I think, gives it the opportunity to fly out of more like regional locations. It gives you the ability to fly out not just from Florida, Texas, but based on that map, you can go from California now. It looked like it was the Virginia or the North Carolina area. I couldn't see. So it gives you more opportunities to fly out.
That big ass naval base in Virginia. That's where it's going.
Yeah. So it gives you the opportunity in different geographical locations, like our podcast. We talk about issues geographically that relate to us. There's also another element to that too, and it's the weather events that are now occurring. Florida's hurricanes are occurring more and more. You're seeing flooding more and more. Texas and its its situation. Snow, California and its wildfires. Like, so it's preparing, because if something happens in one of those locations and you only have 2 states that are realistically only available, and one of the states something happens, now you have a multitude of areas.
Yeah, like reducing the single point of failure, like Chris usually
exactly.
likes to bring. Yeah.
And then you also have to play into national security elements too that come into play as well. If you're flying rockets or you're doing certain things, you're shooting satellites, etc. You're not restricted to just a location. It could be a national security element as well.
Right, just like that movie Martin Lawrence did. National Security.
Which one? Bad Boys?
National Security.
Oh, National Security. Yeah, the security guard.
So just to be clear. Part of the problem was all of those rockets that you talked about being shot into space, they didn't come back down. All their crap is still out there. That's like, yeah. So that was like the big thing is that the only way to launch a satellite from space that didn't deposit debris all over the atmosphere was to use the shuttle. So you load it in the back of the shuttle, you launch the shuttle up, they could launch a satellite and then come back. Right. All other rockets that went up did not come back.
There's so much space debris.
They're all just all the pieces are just floating around, but they launched the satellite, right? And so again, like I said, between 2011 and SpaceX, everything that went up was not allowed to come back.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So if you look, there's like thousands of pieces.
There's there's video that shows you sort of like what to do, or what you would have to go through in order to do that. I don't know how these motherfuckers don't get killed up there with this shit flying around, but I mean, anyways, I think Elon. I don't know, but I think he's been doing a really good job. I mean, obviously his rockets. I don't know if you saw the rocket, the huge
Raptor.
rocket.
Insane.
Yeah, I mean, comes back and
It's
just like
3D printed.
Yeah.
So
well, I think
awesome.
with this problem, we have to call Gerard Butler.
Awesome.
I think he has
Shout
the
out
solution.
Elon.
I think Gerard Butler has the solution. He was a scientist and an astronaut in that movie, and I think he has all the answers.
And moving on.
All right, guys. Speaking
Shout
of
out.
space, shout out Pyramids of Giza. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a new report that was just delivered on March 16th about the whole Giza Plateau, the Pyramids of Giza. And apparently they've been using some new type of LiDAR and radar technology to do some imaging underneath the plateau. And they have found some enormous structures, columns and stuff that was built underneath. I have a little video. Let's just take a look at sort of like what they had going on.
I'll briefly summarize. These findings allowed us to construct a 3D model of the entire complex. The examination of dozens of tomographical images obtained from different angles using Capella space and Umbra radars enabled a 3D reconstruction of most of the objects inside the Pyramid of Khafre. Below, we present some images from our 3D analysis. The analysis of the structures above Belzoni's chamber are intensely coloured spots which can be observed appearing in all tomographic images taken from different angles corresponding to the internal artificial structures. On the next page, it says that improvements of the signal-to-noise ratio.
So yeah, that's some noise signals. But if you saw in the beginning here, this is sort of like this is basically all, if you see the pyramid above, and then below are all these structures that are, stone and cement that are not nature made. And so this is really interesting. And the reason I bring this up is because, I don't know, we've talked about this on our show, but I know the discussion, or one of the big topics, and this is way far away from what we were talking about, but has been, and I love the pyramids, I'm a big fan, and what the pyramids were used for. People debating whether they're built by humans, whether they're like a landing thing, and like there is a bunch of guys out there who have done some research and have claimed that the pyramids are actually used some sort of a power source, right, or like some sort of like way to extract energy. I don't know. I think it's super interesting. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys think there's something else behind the pyramids? Do you think that this is just maybe like a misreading? Maybe they got the wrong data, or do you believe that these pyramids have a significant meaning besides being just stacks of stone for humanity?
So, first, I think the structures inside of all these pyramids are amazing to begin with. I think the civilizations that lived during the times that pyramids were created were originally thought to be uneducated, could not like do certain things at certain times. Like they're actually a lot more sophisticated than you really thought. Their structures were a lot more sophisticated. They were able to build underground structures the way they did it. As it relates to these pyramids, I think it's something similar, to be honest with you. I think it's similar. I think there's questions we're never going to get the answers to because we weren't around in that civilization and the individuals that created this. Do I think it's alien made? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I can't believe that. Do I think there's like some sinister meaning behind this? Do I think there might be zombies down there? Absolutely, coming out like 28 days later.
I'm a fan of what you're saying. I think maybe what I'm pushing forth is like I'm a believer in sort of the Graham Hancock thing, where like there was a civilization possibly before Younger Dryas that may or may not have been, or at least was much more advanced than we have given them credit.
Yes, I think that's the case. I think they were a lot more advanced than we give them credit. There's still technology back in those days that we still don't even understand how they were able to do things. And we're never going to get those answers. Over time, we might be able to piece it together a little bit better. But nobody today, they didn't have books, they didn't have writings, they had hieroglyphics in certain areas. We'll never understand everything, and these are things that are always going to remain a mystery, like the Jeffrey Epstein list. So I think it's fascinating. I think the technology nowadays helps us identify and find more of these mysteries out, meaning structures, meaning tunnels, meaning pathways, because the technology is able to read structures better. But I don't think we're ever going to really understand the structures and how they were created and the meaning behind them. We could try to piece it together, but we weren't there at that time. And it's not like they left a book, said, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah, I tend to definitely believe that the pyramids are not built by the Egyptians, or at least not all of them. Maybe some of them or parts of them. It doesn't seem feasible. And the one piece of information that I always like to refer back to is that none of the tombs, there's no mummies in any of the pyramids, not one. So they're all in the Valley of the Kings, whatever, which is a couple miles away from the pyramids. I think they considered them as sacred, and so that's why they didn't bury anybody in the tombs, because I don't think they built them. But that's not the point. Did you hear about this recently? They just found a new crater in Greenland.
Oh yeah, underneath the ice.
Yeah,
there's a huge meteor impact.
Oh hell no!
In Greenland,
I swear to God, if that movie with Chris Pratt, The End of the World, whatever it was, Tomorrow War, shit comes real.
That meteor actually, they said it's in between the ice ages. So like they broke the ice in Greenland, and then you can see that there's like broken ice from the crater, and then there's new ice on top of it.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so they said it was right around the 12,500 years ago, the Dryas period, Younger Dryas period.
So they think that
aliens, might be the
or do you think
the
it's like Transformers?
Yes to both questions.
Okay.
No. Yeah. What we believe, Mike, is that for some reason there's a lot of rocks flying around in space, and sometimes one of those rocks smashes into the Earth. And Absolutely. The reason we believe that is because when I look up in the night sky and I look at the moon, it's riddled with fucking craters, right? Absolutely. And so that's just kind of where I'm going with that. And most of the Earth is underwater, so I don't know if the Earth is covered in craters or not.
Well, so there's most of the ocean is not even kind of explored. There's still areas of the ocean that are continuing to explore.
Well, look what happened
with
this.
Don't even know how deep. Like, quite honestly, the last time anybody explored the ocean and went down to the depths was Jason Statham in Megalodon.
Oh,
So,
great movie. Great movie.
Great movie.
Great movie.
So
no, it was those fools that paid $2 billion to fucking implode like morons.
Yeah, that's great. So that in a couple of days is National Near Miss Day, right?
What is National? Dare I ask?
National Near Miss Day. National Near Miss Day. We're almost, national.
Meteor?
We almost got hit by a meteor day.
When was this?
What?
It's on,
really?
On the 23rd. 23rd. I put it on the thing. You guys don't read my text.
We don't read.
No, we don't.
We
don't.
We clearly we don't read the
clearly
calendar.
don't. No.
We clearly don't read it
on Saturday.
It's ridiculous.
Where it's a celebration.
Put it in the group chat next time. Put the calendar in the group chat again.
I texted to you guys like twice a week because you guys don't fucking listen to me.
What? We can't listen.
Next Thursday is National Apple Day.
Hey,
no, that's actually pretty interesting. I know there's one coming. There's another one coming. And
supposedly,
What is the end of time? What did they call it?
It's gonna miss us by like pretty close.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. This is
hopefully
cool, but yeah, check
that.
check that stuff out, guys. I don't know. This thing was hard to find. I saw this on social media, and I haven't seen a lot on mainstream media about like sort of the structure or anything. So who knows if this radar shit is even accurate? But
I think the Egyptian government needs to right now the biggest problem is the Egyptian government won't let anybody do the research unless you're Egyptian. And so they don't have the funding, they don't have the backing, they don't do any of this stuff. It's because it's a massive tourist trap, and they make all this money from people visiting the pyramids, and they don't want to find out that they're not Egyptian. Like they think that matters. Like we're still gonna go fucking see them even if they're not Egyptian. Sorry,
I'm just curious, Chris. What do you think? Since you don't think you're saying you don't think it's man-made. You think it's a
no. The Egyptians didn't make them. Somebody before the Egyptians made them.
There was a civilization that might not have made it to where we are, but was definitely more advanced than like the Bronze Age for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like somewhere between like maybe the Bronze and the Steel Age, maybe even the Steel or Iron Age or whatever. And then the meteor hit, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, like the theory about why Europeans are Caucasian and Africans are black.
Because the Europeans hid in the caves.
Well, if you think about where the meteor might have hit is Greenland, right? Above the middle hemisphere, above the equator. And so the northern hemisphere would have been covered in, ash or whatever. And so people would have had to go underground to survive. But people in Africa and in the southern hemisphere could have survived on the surface. And so then that's why over 10,000 years we
need to bring a scientist on. We need to bring somebody on. I want to hear more theories. You're not a scientist. You're a fake scientist. Don't put your hand up like you're a fucking scientist. Get your shit down. We need scientist.
We should get a scientist. Yeah, but it's all interesting, man. Just because you're a non-believer, Mike, because you're in Guantanamo.
No, it's not that I'm not a believer at all. It's not that I'm not a believer at all. I just am not knowledgeable on this topic, and it is a very interesting topic. That's why I'm saying bring a scientist on that's able to talk about this more than a Google scientist.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No problem. Well, then we'll do that. I was going to talk about modern anxiety. This is actually going to be a pretty hilarious little bit here. So our environment, causes a lot of anxiety for us. And as I was looking up sort of the things that cause modern anxiety, I'm going to tell you the truth. 9 out of 10 of them were based on fucking technology. So is a really short segment. If you want to eliminate anxiety, stay off social media, turn off your phone, turn off your computer, stop answering your work emails, and then go outside. It's very simple. You can send me the bill. That's literally all that you need to know about modern anxiety. It is all caused by the falsification of notifications that are not real. They are literally happening somewhere else. Like there's a war going on right now, but it's not happening at your house. But if every time somebody dropped a bomb, your phone rang, it would feel like there's a war going on in your house. And so if you want to eliminate modern anxiety, I don't care if you live somewhere cold or whatever, you need to turn off your phone, stop answering your emails, turn off your television, and get outside and get moving and just do something. Go find some people. Talk to a human being. That's it.
So there's an amazing thing. it's very difficult to have cortisol in your body when you have oxytocin. So go out and talk to people, find friends, whatever. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, I agree. No, so I
Brain
had
melt.
no. The thing is, I've been saying this for a while, like, but you're so addicted to your phone and everything, like, because it's been a part of your life for so long. So when you put it down, when your emails are down, and you're walking around without any of it, do you know what ends up happening? Like, your mind all of a sudden's like, oh, how many messages I missed? What did I not see on Instagram? Who called me? And for those like first 15 minutes, it's like you really have like an addictive, like a withdrawal symptom. You're like, shit, like what the fuck is going on here? Why do I feel this way? It is so hard. But Ricardo, you're 100% right. If you can do it for a short period of time and then build up like over time tolerance,
good advice.
You can do
good
that,
advice. Yeah, really good advice.
You start seeing the world in a different viewpoint, like where you're not checking your phone every 2 seconds to see what somebody is eating on Instagram, or like, you know, you're not looking at your phone to see Chris sending you the calendar for the next month, like stuff like that.
Douche.
But no, you hit it right on the head. A lot of the anxiety comes from the technology that we're given. Our Apple Watches, which are never off because you get your messages, your cell phone. Now you have the Meta glasses where everything's in your glasses, recording, playing music, stuff like that. It's such an important part of your life, but at the same time, it's such a detriment to your life, and it's not mentally healthy.
Amen, guys. I think, and with that, I want to say thanks for joining us. Stop watching YouTube, X, or whatever you're watching us on.
Watch us. Watch us, but make sure watch us every Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. But you know, have some time.
Put your phone away.
Yeah, but outside of us watching us, put your phone away. Just get our notifications.
All right, guys. Have a safe week, and we'll see you next week at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. As always, I'm your host, Rico. This is my boy Elvis here in San Diego, and my boy Mike in New York. And